Jeremy Wade, explorer, biologist, and underwater detective.
Whatever's on the end is about to break the surface.
For decades, my investigations have centered on freshwater mysteries, searching for monsters whose existence in reality was doubted.
They do exist, the gooch do exist.
And seeking out the real creatures behind the folklore. Including the most famous mythical beast of them all, the Loch Ness Monster.
I've seen this thing myself, I know it exists.
Now, I'm turning my attention to the oceans. To solve the mystery behind the most enduring legendary sea monster of them all. The sea serpent. This epic quest will take me from the UK to the waters of the Far East, culminating in one of the most astounding encounters of my life.
If it is true, this could open things up in quite an unbelievable fashion.
I'll have to push myself to my absolute limit.
Topside, do you read me? Water coming in my mask.
But will this be enough to tackle this monster of the deep?
There it is, there it is!
Since humans first ventured into the water, we have been fearful of what lurks beneath. And the most pervasive of all mythical sea creatures is the sea serpent. Early explorers told tales of huge snake-like beasts rising from the sea to sink ships and swallow sailors whole. These horror stories were widespread throughout the ancient world, and unexplained sightings are still being reported. Nearly every culture and every ocean across the globe has its own sea serpent legend. And what's interesting is that the reported features are surprisingly similar. A very long body, big eyes, a huge head, and the presence of fins, or what is sometimes described as a mane. And some depictions show the mouth full of teeth. The thread of commonality in these descriptions leads me to believe that they must be based, at least partially, on fact. My mission is to find out if there is a real animal behind the giant sea serpent legend, and if they still exist in our oceans today. The obvious contender is some kind of snake. Now, I've seen how some aquatic snakes can grow to extraordinary sizes thanks to the water supporting the body.
Look at the size of this!
And the venom of some sea snakes is lethal to humans. But sea snakes are not giants, and their small heads and lack of fins are not consistent with the historic eyewitness accounts. So I'm intrigued when I come across a recent case where a man says he came face to face with an underwater snake-like creature, which was apparently so large he couldn't even get his hands around it. And this wasn't somewhere remote and exotic. This was right in my backyard. I head to the south coast of England to investigate.
I'm on my way to meet a man who was diving off the coast of Ireland when he says that something long and serpent-like attacked him. Morning.
While diving at a depth of 100 feet in the murky water of Killary Harbour, Jimmy Griffin was struck by a large creature that shot out of the darkness. It latched onto his face with its teeth, knocking the air supply out of his mouth.
The pain was unimaginable. It was like the whole side of my face had exploded.
Unable to breathe, he was being thrown around underwater.
The creature is serpent-like and it's thrashing from side to side.
He eventually managed to wrestle free of its jaws.
What exactly can you see and feel?
The length, I could see its grey outline extending out as far as I could see. I couldn't actually get my hand around it as I tried to wrestle it off.
The attack left him permanently scarred. But this was not a snake bite.
If you were somebody with no knowledge, you would see the creature from hell coming straight for you, and you would panic.
But Jimmy did manage to identify his attacker. It was a 7-foot-long conger eel, a carnivorous fish that can be found in these waters.
Its movement, its features, everything, it conjures up the image of a sea serpent straight away.
It certainly fits the legendary descriptions, and after such a vicious and unprovoked attack, the conger eel has to be my first suspect in this search. I've never fished for congers before, but I've heard that they have a reputation for putting up a strong fight when hooked. So I'm eager to witness their aggression for myself. I'm in the town of Plymouth, and I've arranged to meet a man who's been fishing for conger for 35 years, so if anybody knows where to find them, he does. According to fisherman Malcolm Jones, conger eels haunt the shipwrecks and rocky ground of the deep sea. So he takes me out into the English Channel.
It's already getting noticeably more bumpy as we come out past the breakwater into the open sea. This is going to make fishing pretty challenging.
On the way out, we stop to catch some mackerel for bait.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Malcolm prepares a special rig to entice the congers out from their lairs.
So the idea is the current sort of just moves that around, and that's going to give lots of nice scent trail, isn't it? £1.5 of lead going on.
This is my first time fishing for conger eels, and I'm not sure what to expect. But detecting and reacting to a bite in these bumpy conditions is going to take concentration and precision timing.
Yeah, I think I might be. Oh, no. That was definitely some attention from something, because I don't have the bait, and I don't have no bait. I have half a bait. Again, the bait's been mutilated. Oh, ah! Came off. That was on about halfway out to the boat, and then it was off. Came off the hook.
Malcolm says it is congers that are biting, but so far they're outwitting me. They are going for the bait, but they continue to leave me empty-handed.
Yeah, we got one. See if this one stays on the line.
My search for a real creature behind the legend of the sea serpent has brought me to the south coast of England, where I'm hoping to bring in my first contender, a conger eel.
Here we go, that's conger. Fantastic. I just want to calm it down a little bit and have a look at it. I'm just being careful, though, because I don't want my hands anywhere near the mouth. Having spoken to Jimmy, seeing what one of these did to his face, this is a fish to be treated with respect, even though this, as conger eels go, is not a big one. The thing is that they grow a lot heavier than this, much heavier than this, but in terms of length, something like twice the length of this. Right.
Seeing this live conger eel in the flesh, I'm struck by how much it does resemble some of the drawings I've seen of alleged sea serpents. But even the biggest conger eels don't get close to sea serpent territory in terms of size.
Well, having caught my first conger, I have to say that it is an incredibly serpent-like fish. But the thing is, they're actually quite localized. They only really live around the British Isles and Europe. So what is giving rise to these sea serpent stories in other parts of the world? And I'm wondering, maybe the conger has a bigger, uglier relative somewhere else out in the oceans.
There are 800 species of eel found worldwide, from the giant mottled eel that I caught in the Indo-Pacific,
But it's got lots of teeth, very sharp teeth.
and the longfin eel in New Zealand,
Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that! Ah!
To the ghoulish-looking green moray. All of them are equipped to inflict a devastating bite. I've been told about a cluster of particularly vicious incidents that took place in Thailand, a country I've visited many times, but never to fish in its oceans. And there's something else. In Thailand's rich mythology, aquatic serpents are prominent. Coincidence? I need to find out more. In 2000, a tourist was snorkeling with his friends in a renowned dive site off the coast of Thailand when he was brutally attacked. The bite to his leg severed an artery, and blood flooded into the water. By the time he struggled back to shore, his life was ebbing away. Despite forensic examination of the teeth marks, the official identity of his attacker remains unknown. But the locals have their own theory. They know of an aggressive serpentine animal in these waters, whose teeth make light work of human flesh. The giant moray eel. Could this be my next suspect? I travelled to the island of Phuket off Thailand's west coast to meet diving instructor Matt Butcher, who knows firsthand the damage a giant moray can inflict, and his story from the nearby Similan Islands was caught on camera.
I was working on a Similan liveaboard, a dive liveaboard, and there was a famous moray eel that all the instructors that used to work on the boats there used to feed her. She lived under a table coral, and every time divers approached her, she would swim out and investigate.
How big was this eel?
I would say at least 6 foot in length, and she had a very big head as well. She had several names. She was called Emma by some boats, Scarface by another boats. That morning, she swam out as normal, and she played with us for a bit, and then I decided to get the food out. As I was concentrating on getting the food out, Emma, she swam behind my back, and she could smell the food. Before I knew what had happened, she'd kind of latched onto my thumb. I tried to open her mouth with my other hand, but I just couldn't get her mouth open. She shook her head, came off with a loud pop. And I looked down and I could see the knuckle where my thumb used to be.
You appear to have a thumb now, so what's the story there?
When I arrived at the hospital in Phuket, the doctor there, who was dressing my wounds, he mentioned that he had a colleague in Bangkok and he could possibly perform a procedure where he could take off one of my toes and graft it onto my hand to replace my missing thumb. Within about 5 months, I guess, it was great. I could move it a lot, and I think I have about 80% mobility now. It's great. It's just like I have my old thumb back. I don't even notice I've got a toe.
Matt's encounter had a positive ending. But if it were a giant moray that killed the tourist, that would fit with tales of sea serpents devouring helpless sailors. As night falls, I explore the fish market, looking for a moray to examine.
Flatline moray? No, not so here. No. I look for Flatline moray, the long one.
I'm told to head to the end of the market to talk to the sea gypsies.
Yeah, you can look over there.
The sea gypsies, or Chao Li, meaning people from the sea, no longer live entirely on the water, but still practice a hunter-gatherer existence. The nomadic Rawai tribe are some of the original inhabitants of Phuket.
People tell me that you sometimes catch moray. Plana. You catch sometimes?
He tells me that the Rawai only catch the morays to eat and not to sell, so he doesn't have any in the market. But if I want to see one, he has a team of half a dozen people who sometimes catch morays, and I'm welcome to join them tomorrow. I want to see if this fish's jaws have enough power to kill a human. so the following morning I join the Rawai and head out on their boat. For generations, the Rawai lived, died and gave birth on the water, living solely off the bounty that the ocean provided. These seas are their true ancestral home, and their knowledge of what lies below the surface is exceptional. As sustainable hunters, they only take enough to satisfy their own needs, and the moray eel is a staple food for them. Although I normally have the luxury of being able to catch and release, I'm happy to leave them to spear the fish using their traditional technique.
Getting ready to go in the water now. The divers, no fins, just shoes. They're basically walking on the bottom. Weight belt, the air hose actually tied on around the waist, and then the air is just supplied through a mask, and all fed by the big old compressor in the back there, which we're just about to fire up. So this is the weaponry here. It's just a sharpened piece of rod, a piece of strong elastic attached to one end of it, and like this. So that's going to go very fast through the water, pretty accurate. So very low tech, but potentially quite effective.
Compressor diving, a low-cost alternative to self-contained scuba tanks, is fraught with danger. The compressors themselves often have a very basic filtration system, meaning diesel fumes and other deadly contaminants, such as carbon monoxide, can poison the air inside the hose. But this method allows them much more time underwater than traditional breath-hold diving.
The thing about morays is they're not free living. They're living in cracks in coral, in cracks in rock.
Now the men have to find a giant eel before it finds them. I've taken my search for monsters into the oceans, where I'm on a quest to solve the mystery behind the myth of the sea serpent. I've come to Thailand, where I'm with the Rawai sea gypsies fishing for giant moray eels. I want to find out if this could be the fish that spawned one of the world's monster legends.
They're coming up. Got 4 here. I'm guessing they're sort of 3-4 foot long, something like that.
These are just half the length of the one that ate Matt's thumb, but the giant moray eel can grow to 12 feet long.
So, this is a moray eel, and just looking at those teeth and jaws, they are pretty ferocious. I want to have a closer look at those. I'm going to put it down for a moment. The front ones are very long. They're slightly curved. And the thing about them is they're pointing back, so if you actually pull, all you're going to do is make those points penetrate even deeper. The thing is, what happens then? The moray eel is actually unique in this respect, in terms of how it transfers its prey from the point of the jaws back into the throat. It's actually got this secondary set of jaws in the back of the throat. It's almost like alien. They will come forward, grab hold of the prey, pull it back into the throat.
Morays have few natural predators, are known cannibals, and are not afraid to take on prey equal to their own size. Their science fiction designed jaws give them the ability to swallow their quarry whole, much like the sea serpent reports I've read. But I can't see how even the biggest morays could swallow a person. And the fact that these ambush predators hide away in cracks and crevices on the ocean floor doesn't fit with ancient tales of sea serpents attacking boats at the surface. But I'm not prepared to discount them yet. I need to do some investigating back on land. Here in Thailand, nearly every temple features a carving or painting of a classic sea serpent type creature. I head north to Nong Khai, on the border with Laos and right on the banks of the Mekong River. Far Eastern mythology features a serpentine creature known as the Naga, which many believe lives in the water here. According to Buddhist scriptures, Lord Buddha made the Naga a fearsome guardian of the temples to provide protection for the rest of eternity, and certainly its likeness is intimidating.
These things are all over the place, particularly on stairways like this, and they're not all identical, but they are variations on a common theme. And one of the consistent features is this long fish-like body. It's not really like a snake, and this particular one has a dorsal fin, or what looks like a dorsal fin here, and another fin on the lower surface. And then they've all got this very characteristic sort of crest on the head.
It's that crest that I find most intriguing. Certainly no eel has anything like that, nor do eels have visible scales.
What are you?
I find it hard to believe that such distinctive and consistent traits arise purely from the imagination. I've also been assuming that the Naga is a sea monster, but I've been told it lives here, in the Mekong River. It's getting confusing. Could it be something that moves between rivers and oceans? I know from experience that many myths start with one foot in reality, and in Thailand I've landed some huge and almost supernatural-looking river monsters that many people wouldn't otherwise believe existed.
It's squashing my fingers, it's squashing my fingers.
But numbers of these giants have drastically declined in recent years due to development and overfishing. So maybe the same is true of the legendary Naga. Maybe it was once a real creature, but now exists only in paintings and temple carvings. Local knowledge is often a vital source of information. So I speak to Kun Yai Thon, who at 80 years of age is one of the oldest residents in the village.
I've seen lots of big carvings in the temples of this creature that's a bit like a giant snake. What is that creature exactly?
พญานาคนี่อยู่ในน้ำ
Payana.
รูปพญานาคเป็น
Payana is the local name for the serpent.
Is this something that people are afraid of?
คนกันย่านเพิ่นอยู่แต่ว่าบ่อันตราย
So you say people are scared of them, but they're not dangerous. So, why are people scared of them?
มาจากอำนาจ
She tells me about a young man who angered the Naga by being wasteful.
อยู่ในน้ำแหละ
The next time he went to bathe in the river, he disappeared. It's believed it was a vengeful serpent that took him, never to be seen again.
Have you ever seen one?
บ่เคยเห็นเลย มีคนก็เชื่อว่าเป็นพญานาคขึ้นมาเฮ็ดให้คนเห็น
When I asked her if she's seen it, she says no, she hasn't, and people generally don't see it.
Then she tells me a startling piece of information.
A photograph.
Despite never having seen the Naga herself, she tells me there's a photograph of one at a nearby monastery. I've seen many drawings and depictions of sea monsters, both old and new, but a photograph, if it's real, it changes everything. I head straight to the monastery and meet a monk simply named O, who agrees to show me the alleged photo of the Naga. The monster is unmasked.
This is an extraordinary picture.
I'm in northern Thailand, home of the Naga, a Buddhist deity in the form of a fearsome serpent who's said to snatch people from the surface of the Mekong River. Despite being told that no one has ever seen this mythical beast, I've just been handed a photograph of one. This is an extraordinary picture, thank you very much. It's very, very similar to the carvings on the temple as well. It is a real photo and a real fish. Oh, caption in English here as well. Queen of Nagas seized by American Army at Mekong River, Laos military base, June 27, 1973. Length of 7.8 meters. That's about 25 feet. Very big, but incredible picture. Thank you very much. A long-lost memory surfaces of seeing this picture before in a newspaper. It was taken in the US near San Diego, but I don't want to cause offense by saying this. It's a fish called the oarfish, and it is found throughout the world, but it's only found in very deep seawater. It doesn't come into rivers, which means that that caption is incorrect. But I can see why the monks believe it to be the Naga. With its long, thin body, red dorsal fin, and that distinctive crest. So the oarfish may not be the Naga, but it does absolutely fit the description of the sea serpent. It's so rarely seen, however, that it wasn't even on my radar until now. In a time when people were terrified of the unknown, you can easily imagine how this freakish-looking animal could have struck fear into those who encountered it. But in recent times, these fish have only ever been seen alive on just a handful of occasions. Although I might have identified the real creature behind the myth of the sea serpent, my investigations are all about seeing the real life, flesh and blood creature at the end of the road. And this is one occasion, possibly uniquely in my career, when my chances of actually doing that are absolutely zero. It's a crushing realization. As far as I know, more people have been to the moon than have seen a live, healthy specimen of this fish. But traveling back to Bangkok on my way home, I decide I'm not ready to give up unraveling the mystery of the sea serpent. The oarfish is so tantalizingly close to the beast of legend. I just have to figure out how to find the real thing. The challenge with oarfish is that although they live in nearly all the world's oceans, they remain one of the most rarely seen of all fish, and that's because they live at depths ranging from 600 to 3,000 feet. They're usually only ever seen at the surface when they're dying or when they get washed up on the shore, already dead, like the one found in 2015 on Santa Catalina Island in California. It's estimated that they can grow to 50 feet in length. Back in 1860, when a dead specimen was discovered in Bermuda, it was officially described by biologists as being the Great Sea Serpent. So little is known about oarfish that I'm struggling to find any useful information about them at all, anything about their behavior and whereabouts. How do I get myself in the right place at the right time to see a live one? I put the word out to my international network of contacts, desperate for intelligence, any tip-offs about this mysterious fish. What comes back is some startling news. I've just heard something which, it sounds so unlikely, I'm tempted to dismiss it out of hand, but if it is true, this could open things up in quite an unbelievable fashion. So I've got to get to somewhere where I can talk to somebody in France. There's a French guy called David who I need to talk to. I hurry back to the hotel to make a Skype call. I've been told to contact a Frenchman named David Luquet, a professional deep-sea diver who collects data for an oceanographic organization. He claims to have seen a live oarfish, or regalec as they are known in French. What is the beginning of the story for you?
One day, I dive, and just in front of me at 1 meter, 5 meters regalec, and the regalec didn't move when it stayed just in front of me.
The diving, is it difficult in this place?
Yes, it's very difficult, and it can be very dangerous and very hard, very hard.
But if going underwater is the only way to see this creature alive, then that's what I'll do.
Okay, all right. Well, no, thank you for that. I'll let you get back to work now. Thanks very much indeed. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, David.
See
Bye.
you.
Right. Gosh, I'm just trying to process that. This was something that I thought was impossible, but I've just spoken to somebody who has seen oarfish close up, alive, but not an easy thing to do. Challenging conditions, and he's just seen them a handful of times. But I think this is something I can't pass up. I thought my investigation had actually come to an end, but maybe it hasn't. Maybe I've got to get myself to France.
Why is the oarfish a bad omen in Japan? The answer after this. I asked you why the oarfish is a bad omen in Japan. According to folklore, an oarfish washed up on a beach is a warning of an imminent earthquake. My quest to finally resolve the sea serpent mystery started in bustling Plymouth Harbour close to home, then moved to Thailand, and now to the billionaire's playground of Antibes near Nice in the south of France. I've been told that 3.5 hours from this unlikely location, I may be able to dive with a real-life sea serpent.
It's very common to think that when you are looking for exotic, outlandish creatures, you're going to have to go to some remote, far-flung, sparsely populated part of the world. You certainly don't think about coming to a place like this, the French Riviera.
We finally reach our destination, a buoy in the middle of the Mediterranean. David was collecting data from this buoy when he encountered the oarfish. The water here is about 1.5 miles deep, and this marker is anchored to the seabed by a seemingly endless chain tether. For some reason, nobody knows exactly why the oarfish swim up the line to within 30 feet of the surface, sometimes even closer. Nobody can say exactly when they're going to do that, but I'm just hoping that there will be one occasion when the fish is there and I am also in the water. I only have a small window of opportunity when the weather and sea conditions are favourable, and when there is the right amount of plankton to attract the fish, but the water is still clear. I've been told I might only have 24 hours before the moment has passed. David has warned me that because of the depth and sometimes strong currents, diving here can be very dangerous. So I'll have an experienced dive team with me in the water and communication with the boat in case of any problems. This is an extreme form of diving known as blue water diving, where the sea floor is out of sight. And with no frame of reference, even professional divers can get disoriented. I'm also using a rebreather device, which allows me to stay underwater for longer than simple air tanks. But this makes it a very technical dive. I only learned to use this equipment recently, and I'm hoping my skills are up to the job. This is not the kind of diving I've ever done before. Nothing to really orient yourself by apart from this thin line going down into the depths. We are prepared and trained, but you just don't want anything to go wrong. This big blue is another world. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. The jellyfish and sea salps look like they come from another planet. At a depth of about 80 feet, I feel like I'm floating in outer space. I can't see the bottom, and the chain holding the buoy is the only stair for miles around. This is my lifeline.
Affirmative, yes, I'm on the anchor chain. But it's a very potentially hazardous place to get drawn away from your point of reference.
I wait and wait for the myth to become reality, but there's no oarfish in sight.
The water is very, very clear. Visibility, I'm guessing, is about 30 foot, something like that. And I'm not seeing anything anywhere near the chain.
But I'm struggling to control my buoyancy in the strong swell, and the effort I'm having to expend is making me tired and increasingly uncomfortable. I'm beginning to feel disoriented. I want to return to the surface, but I have to keep calm and take my time, because a rapid change in pressure can cause potentially fatal decompression illness.
Topside, do you read me? Do you read me? Over. Probably here I'm panting a bit. Water coming in the mask. No, I'm just not doing totally well at the moment.
Jeremy, you okay, fella?
I'm diving off the south of France, looking for an oarfish, the fish that I now believe is the real creature behind the sea serpent myth. But my chances of actually seeing this incredibly rare fish are diminishing fast, and I'm finding the dive extremely difficult.
I think I'm probably about ready to come out.
Just take a few minutes and try and get your breathing in check.
I need to fight my instinct to surface immediately. I have to ascend slowly to avoid getting the bends. I'm relieved to be back on the boat, but physically exhausted.
Actually quite tired. I really struggled on that last dive, and the thing is, I don't know if it's going to get any better. I am operating, I feel, right at the edge of my capability here. This is a very challenging underwater environment. You've got no bottom to refer to. That's a mile and a half away. What I'm really trying to cultivate underwater is exactly what I do when I'm fishing. It's achieving a sense of calm and control, but with all the things that I have to keep in my mind underwater. I'm just not achieving that, to the extent that I don't even know if I'm going to get in the water again. I don't know if it is advisable to get in the water again. So here we are. The conditions are great, but I don't know if I'm actually capable of it. I face a huge dilemma. I'm so close to potentially solving this mystery, but I'm also concerned that getting back in the water could end badly. I've spent my life fishing in dangerous and treacherous situations, but this is a whole different kettle of fish, and one that I'm not sure I'm able to cope with. And my time is ticking away fast. Now, my only remaining chance of seeing this fish is to dive at night. The thing about going in at night is, for me, it's very much cranking things up another notch, or actually several notches. It's much easier to be disoriented, no real points of reference. I need to set my fears aside if I'm going to solve this mystery. The water is full of plankton, which I'm hoping will summon a sea serpent up from the murky depths. I wait again for it to appear, this time in the eerie, silent darkness.
There it is! There it is! It's here! This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I think more people have seen the Earth from space than have seen one of these this close. Such an outlandish looking thing. I might even touch it. I actually touched it. Oh!
Even so close, it's hard to judge its length, but I estimate it's about 2.5 times my height.
Very, very fast and maneuverable. It doesn't flex the body. It's just a fin, undulating like a wave.
Oarfish don't have swim bladders, so they can move very rapidly up and down the water column.
Seem to be definitely using the chain as a point of reference. Really follow this up. Look at this. 1 minute it wasn't there, and then suddenly it's right next to me. I can scarcely believe this. It almost came out of another dimension.
I feel so privileged to be in the presence of one of the most elusive creatures on the planet. And just as I think it can't get any better...
There's two. Incredible. Why do they do this? Why are they here? Are they feeding? Are they breeding? Well, this is going to be on film, hopefully. If it wasn't, I think I would doubt the accuracy of my senses. Did I really see what I just saw?
Against all the odds, I believe I finally solved the mystery of the sea serpent. It's this extraordinary and exceptionally rare fish, the oarfish, that is the true origin behind the enduring legend.